Let us begin this hour not with thought and not with effort, but with a simple turning within. For it is in the stillness of our own being that the truth we are seeking is already present, awaiting recognition. We are not here to acquire something new, nor to add more concepts to the mind. We are here for one purpose only, to behold that which is eternally so. And as we settle into this moment, let us recognize that the presence we seek is not coming to us from somewhere else. It is here, where we are, as the life that is beating our hearts, as the breath that is breathing itself. Remember always, you are not seeking God. God is expressing as you. You are not a human trying to reach the divine. You are divine consciousness appearing in human form. And the moment you recognize this truth, even in the smallest degree, the peace of the kingdom rises within you like a quiet dawn, illuminating your path, guiding your steps, and unfolding your life in a presence that has no opposite. Let us be very clear. Nothing you will hear in this class is meant to persuade you nor to correct the outer scene of your life. The outer scene is always an effect. What we are doing is far simpler and infinitely more profound. We are turning toward the invisible that underlies the visible. We are letting the one presence reveal itself as the only life, the only law, the only power. And as we settle into this moment, let us recognize that the presence we seek is not coming to us from somewhere else. It is here, where we are, as the life that is beating our hearts, as the breath that is breathing itself. So, in this moment, let the world go. Let the concerns of the day be placed gently at the side. Let us step out of the noise of the human mind and enter the Sabbath rest, where nothing is to be achieved and nothing is to be improved. There is only the realization that the one we seek is the one living as our own being. As we proceed together, hold lightly to this inner attitude. Speak, Father, thy servant heareth, not with ears, but with the heart, not with effort, but with receptivity. In this attitude, the truth that has always been present will reveal itself without struggle, and we shall behold that the harmony of God is the harmony of our own true existence. In our human experience, we have lived under the impression that there are powers outside ourselves to fear or resist, forces to overcome or defend against. But in this hour, we turn away from the realm of appearance, and we rest gently in the awareness that truth is not in the outer world. Truth is within. Harmony is within. God is within. And as we rest in this inner communion, we begin to sense that the presence that sustains us has never been absent for a moment. In the moment we believe that anything in the outer world can act upon us with power, we have unknowingly stepped into this dual realm. We have assumed that God is one power, and something else, disease, lack, danger, circumstance, is another. And from that instant, fear begins, anxiety begins, defense begins. For we are trying to live in a universe split into opposites, where harmony is constantly threatened by its supposed opposite. But let us understand something very gently. God, being infinite, leaves no room for another power. The moment we grant power to anything apart from the infinite, we have accepted an illusion and then must suffer under the weight of that illusion. We are not punished by God. We are simply experiencing the consequences of believing what is not so. You will recall the story of the garden. In its mystical sense, it is not a tale of human guilt, but an illustration of what happens the moment consciousness turns toward the knowledge of good and evil, rather than resting in the simplicity of the one. To behold good and evil as powers is to partake of the forbidden fruit, but notice that nothing actually changed in God's universe. Only human perception shifted. Only the sense of separation was born. So it is with us. When a discordant condition appears, whether in the body, the finances, the home, or the world, we immediately feel fear if we believe that condition has power. And in that very fear, we are affirming two powers. We are saying that God is present, yes, but that something else has a life and law of its own. And this is the central error the infinite way seeks to dissolve. Let us be clear. We are not to fight evil, nor resist it, nor attempt to destroy it. For in doing so, we are granting it the very power we wish to remove. Resistance is always acknowledgement. Combat is always recognition. And the moment we battle a second power, the illusion tightens its grip. But when we quietly withdraw our belief in two powers, when we stand still and let the truth reveal itself, we discover that what appeared as evil, as threat, as power, has no law to sustain it. It cannot act because it has no cause. It has no life of its own. It is only an appearance presenting itself to the senses as a dream presents itself to the sleeper. Now, as we move deeper into our work, let us take a quiet look at the central misconception that lies at the root of all fear, all discord, all struggle in human experience. It is the ancient belief that there are two powers, one good, one evil, one for us, another against us. This duality, which the world has accepted for thousands of years, is not truth. It is the hypnotism of the human race. It is the dream from which all suffering proceeds. Therefore, as we continue in our work, let it be with this gentle recognition. Any time we feel disturbance, it is never because of what stands before us. It is always because we have momentarily accepted the ancient illusion of two powers. And in that recognition, the illusion begins to lose its hold, and the peace of the one presence begins to announce itself within us. As we continue in our unfolding, let us rest for a moment in the realization that the universe is not divided. God is not one power among many. God is one presence, one life, one law, one activity. When Scripture declares, "The Lord our God, the Lord is one," it is not giving us a theological statement. It is revealing the very fabric of reality. And all spiritual healing, all spiritual harmony, arises from this single principle. To know God as one is not to make God powerful. It is to perceive that nothing else possesses power. There is no opposing force to threaten, diminish, or alter the activity of the infinite. There is no second cause working against the first. There is no presence acting contrary to omnipresence. There is no mind functioning against the one mind. This is the essence of mystical healing, the recognition that nothing exists to be healed. When we approach a condition through fear or through the desire to change it, we have already accepted that condition as a power. We have said, "Here is something real, something able to act upon me." And in that acceptance, healing becomes impossible, because we are attempting to overcome a power which does not exist. In truth, the moment we give a condition power, we have removed ourselves from the one, but when we turn within and acknowledge only one power, the entire picture changes. We are no longer fighting appearances. We are no longer working on anything. We are resting in the silent recognition that the only activity operating here is the activity of God. The only life present is the life of God. The only law functioning is the law of God. And in that holy resting, the appearance dissolves, not because we have done anything to it, but because we have seen through it. You see, a shadow may appear on the wall, but it has no substance. To fight it is to grant it reality. To try to change it is to misunderstand its nature. But to recognize it as shadow nothingness projected upon a surface is to render it powerless without lifting a hand. So it is with the shadows of sickness, lack, fear, and discord. They have no reality of their own, no life, no law, no cause. They are appearances without substance. The work of the infinite way is always inner, never outer. It is not to improve the shadow, but to realize the light behind it. It is not to change the effect, but to behold the cause. It is not to repair the visible, but to rest in the invisible. When we abide in this recognition, harmony flows naturally, for harmony has always been the truth of our being. And so, as we continue this hour, let us quietly adopt this inner attitude. There is no power but God. There is nothing to oppose the activity of God. There is nothing to correct, nothing to resist, nothing to overcome. There is only the silent, effortless presence of the One unfolding as our life. And in this realization, we shall discover that all healing is simply the revelation of what has eternally been. Let us move now to a principle that stands at the very heart of spiritual living, the ability to see through appearances. For as long as we remain mesmerized by the world of sense, we will continue to believe in the reality of conditions. But the Master did not instruct us to fight appearances, nor to correct them, nor to improve them. His instruction was this: judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. He was directing us to look beyond the surface of things into the invisible that constitutes their true nature. You see, every discordant condition, every form of lack, every disturbance that comes to our attention appears to have power. It seems able to act upon us. It seems able to influence our well-being. But that is only because we are judging according to appearance. We are accepting what the eye sees and the ear hears as reality. Yet Goldsmith reminds us that the senses testify only to the world of form, not to the world of spirit. And truth is never in form, it is always in the invisible. When a discord touches our experience, let us not engage with it mentally. Let us not deny it with the mind, nor oppose it with thought. Denial still accepts the condition as something requiring opposition. Opposition still acknowledges a second power. But spiritual perception does not operate on the level of the condition at all. It rises above the picture and beholds the presence of God where the appearance seems to be. This is the essence of righteous judgment, to behold the spiritual reality instead of the sensory appearance, not to pretend, not to affirm, not to manufacture a better picture, but to realize that God alone is the substance and law of all that exists, and therefore the condition before us has no power, no activity, no life of its own. It is but the projection of the world mind, appearing only to the senses, never to the spirit. This understanding requires a quiet inner pause. When something appears that would ordinarily disturb us, let us withdraw into the sanctuary within and simply rest in the recognition: this that appears has no power, it has no law, it has no cause. God is the only presence here. In that silent acknowledgement, we are not trying to change the appearance. We are removing from it the only thing that ever gave it reality, our belief in its power. And as that belief dissolves, the appearance loses its seeming solidity. It begins to fade, not because we have altered it, but because we are no longer holding it in consciousness as something with power. Harmony then reveals itself not as something newly created, but as the eternal reality that was present before the appearance ever took shape. So let us learn this gentle art of seeing through appearances. When the senses report discord, let us turn within and behold the invisible. Let us recognize that every form is but an outer symbol and only spirit is real. Little by little, as we practice this, the world loses its capacity to frighten us, for we no longer accept its pictures as truth. We walk through life with the quiet assurance that beneath every appearance stands the one presence, and that presence is the only reality of any person, any condition, any situation. And so, as we continue this hour, let us quietly adopt this inner attitude. There is no power but God. There is nothing to oppose the activity of God. There is nothing to correct, nothing to resist, nothing to overcome. There is only the silent, effortless presence of the One unfolding as our life. And in this realization, we shall discover that all healing is simply the revelation of what has eternally been. This is the beginning of true spiritual vision, the vision that heals, the vision that liberates, the vision that reveals the presence of God where the senses testify otherwise. When a discordant appearance presents itself, the human tendency is to react. The mind rushes forth to analyze, to judge, to defend, to correct. But in that reaction, we are still dwelling in the belief that something external has power. The moment we try to fix a condition, we are affirming that the condition has reality. And so our first movement must always be this, to turn within. Turning within does not mean closing the eyes to escape the world. It means withdrawing our faith from the outer picture. It means releasing the belief that anything in the visible realm is a cause. It means resting in the quiet awareness that God alone is the activity of this moment. And as we do so, something begins to shift not outwardly at first, but inwardly at the level of consciousness. The fear subsides, the agitation softens, a stillness begins to form. And in that stillness, the truth that has always been present begins to announce itself. This inner work is not effortful. It is not a striving to make something happen. It is the surrender of mental effort. It is the willingness to let God be God. The presence within cannot reveal itself while we are busy thinking, planning, resisting, or attempting to manipulate appearances. But the moment we become still, truly still, the presence begins to unfold. And in that unfolding, the appearance loses its hold. Let us see how this may be practiced. When a problem comes before you, do not rush to meet it with thought. Instead, pause. Let the world wait. Turn your attention inward and simply acknowledge, Father, here I am. Speak, for thy child listens. Then rest. Do nothing more. Do not seek an answer. Do not attempt to visualize harmony. Do not reach for solutions. Just rest in the quiet assurance that the only presence in this situation is God. This is the true spiritual activity, the silent recognition of the one presence. As you abide in that recognition, the hypnotism of the appearance begins to dissolve. You find yourself no longer disturbed because you have withdrawn belief from a second power. When the fear goes, the problem has nothing left to stand upon. Its seeming reality begins to fade. Understand this well. The outer picture does not change because we have corrected it. It changes because we have ceased to uphold it in consciousness. The moment we recognize the one presence, the one life, the one law, the one activity, the entire fabric of fear collapses and harmony appears where discord once seemed to be. That harmony is not created. It is revealed. Therefore, our practice is simple. Turn within, rest, listen, and acknowledge. Do this not only in moments of trouble, but throughout the day. As you walk, as you speak, as you work, as you sit quietly, let there be a constant inward resting in the awareness that God is the only activity of your being. In that recognition, you return again and again to the center, the place where fear cannot enter and where harmony is eternally established. And so, the inner work becomes the entire work. Nothing more is required. Nothing else is needed. The presence within does the healing, the restoring, the harmonizing. Our part is only to let it be. As we continue, let us observe what takes place inwardly when the belief in two powers begins to dissolve, even for a moment. For when this shift occurs, it is not dramatic and it is not emotional. It is quiet, so quiet, in fact, that many overlook it. Yet in that stillness, a profound change takes place. The fear that once seemed so real begins to melt away, not through effort, but through the simple recognition that nothing opposed to God exists. You will notice that the moment you rest in the awareness of one presence, something releases within you. It may feel like a softening in the mind, or a loosening of the chest, or a quiet warmth spreading through the being. But all of these are merely signs that consciousness is withdrawing its faith from the appearance and resting in the invisible. This is the beginning of spiritual healing, not an outer correction, but an inner shift from fear to recognition. Understand this clearly. Fear cannot survive in the presence of realized truth. Fear has no life of its own. It is sustained only by belief in a second power. And so, when you realize that there is no power in the appearance, none at all, the fear has nothing left to cling to. It falls away, just as darkness vanishes the moment a light is turned on. We do not fight the darkness. We do not struggle with it. We simply allow the light to be what it is, and the darkness disappears of its own accord. So it is with fear. As long as we wrestle with fear, we affirm its existence. As long as we attempt to overcome fear with human thought, we sustain the illusion of its reality. But when we stand inwardly still and behold the truth that only God is power, fear dissolves naturally, because the belief that supported it has been withdrawn. You may notice that the problem or condition which once appeared threatening begins to lose its intensity. It may still be present to the senses, but it no longer carries weight. It no longer seems dangerous. It no longer occupies consciousness. This is the sign that healing has already begun. Healing always begins within, at the point where fear is replaced by the recognition of God's presence. If you rest in this realization long enough, something deeper occurs. You begin to sense a peace that has nothing to do with circumstances, a peace that does not depend upon a change in the outer picture, a peace that arises from within your own being, flowing forth gently, without effort, without intention. This is the presence announcing itself. This is the activity of the one life moving silently in your consciousness. And then, in its own time and in its own way, the outer picture often adjusts. Harmony becomes visible. Conditions improve. Problems dissolve. But let us be very clear. These outward changes are the effect, not the cause. They are the shadow of the inner realization. The truth is that nothing external was ever healed. The only healing that ever takes place is the healing of the belief in a power apart from God. And so, as fear dissolves, something else takes its place, an invisible confidence, a quiet assurance, a deep knowing that you are not living in a world of opposing forces, but in a universe governed by one power alone. This assurance is not something you manufacture. It comes to you as grace. It comes when you have allowed the one presence to reveal itself as the only reality. In this dawning realization, you discover that harmony is not something to be attained. It is the natural state of being when fear is absent, and fear is absent when duality has been dissolved. Now let us consider how this realization of one power becomes the foundation of daily living. For spiritual truth must be lived, not merely understood, and the living of it is not accomplished through discipline or will, but through continued recognition moment after moment that there is only one presence operating in every facet of our existence. When we rise in the morning, let us remember there is no power in the day ahead to bless us or to harm us. The day has no power. Circumstances have no power. People have no power. Conditions have no power. God alone is power, and that power is the quiet, invisible activity of the presence within. As we begin the day with this acknowledgement, we find ourselves moving through life with a calm that does not come from positive thinking, but from truth realized. In the realm of health, observe what takes place when you no longer accept disease as a power. A symptom may appear, but if you can look at it without fear, knowing that it has no law behind it, no life, no cause, you will notice that the tension surrounding it begins to dissolve. You are no longer battling the body. You are beholding the fact that the body has no authority of its own, for God is the life of your being, and that life cannot be damaged, threatened, or diminished. In matters of supply, the same principle holds. Lack appears only when we believe that outer channels are sources of good. But there is no power in a job, a person, or a bank account. They are but instruments through which the divine may flow for a season. The source itself is invisible. The supply is God. And when we cease granting power to outer forms, the fear of lack dissolves, and new avenues of supply often open naturally without anxiety, without striving, without human manipulation. In relationships, too, we see the truth. No person can withhold peace from us, nor can any person bestow it. No one has power to injure, and no one has power to uplift. All power belongs to God, and God is the identity of every individual. When this is realized, our relationships become harmonized, not because the other person changes, but because we no longer respond to them as power. We behold the Christ where human personality once stood, and in that beholding, discord gives way to peace. And even in the world of public events, politics, economics, global tensions, we learn not to give power to appearances. Headlines may shout, conditions may fluctuate, but beneath the noise, the one presence remains untouched. When we refuse to fear the world, we bring to it something it desperately needs, the consciousness of peace. And that consciousness, held silently, becomes a blessing far beyond anything we can measure. Understand that living from one power does not make us indifferent or passive. It makes us free from fear, free from reaction, free from the endless attempts to control life. It enables us to move through each situation with a calm inner assurance that God is the only activity taking place, and that all things, when released from the illusion of a second power, reveal their inherent harmony. This is the way we live spiritually, not by trying to force life into order, but by seeing through the disorder, recognizing that only God acts. And as this recognition deepens, we find that our outer lives become simpler, clearer, quieter. There is less struggle, less strain, less resistance. We discover that life unfolds in a rhythm of grace when we cease interfering with it through fear. Thus, the realization of one power becomes not an occasional practice, but a way of walking through the world with open eyes and a quiet heart, knowing that wherever we go, whatever we do, whatever faces us, the only power present is God, and that is enough. Let us now enter more deeply into the contemplative aspect of our work, for all spiritual unfoldment arises through this inner resting. Without stillness, truth remains theoretical. With stillness, Truth becomes the living presence that reveals itself as our own being. In this portion of our time together, we are not striving for understanding, nor are we attempting to reach any particular state. We are simply opening ourselves to the realization that the one power is already here. Sit for a moment within yourself and gently acknowledge there is only one presence. Let the words settle, not in the mind, but in the heart. Feel the truth behind them, the simplicity of them. There is only one life, only one activity, only one cause. This is not something we must make true. It is the reality of being, and all we are doing is recognizing it. As thoughts arise, and they will do not follow them, do not oppose them. Let them come, and let them pass. Thoughts have no power. They are merely movements of the world mind, seeking recognition. But we remain still. We do not battle thought. We rest in the realization that thought itself has no authority. God is the only power, and God does not come to us through thought, but through inner silence. Now, bring to mind, very gently, anything that may have troubled you, an appearance of lack, a condition of the body, a fear for the future, a disturbance in a relationship. Look upon it without judgment. Let it be what it seems to be, and then quietly say within yourself, this has no power, not as denial, not as a statement of force, but as the simple recognition of truth. The appearance cannot act. It cannot influence. It cannot govern. For the one power is God, and God alone is the law of this moment. Rest again. Let the mind settle. Feel the presence that underlies all things. It does not come from the outside. It rises from the depth of your being. It is the stillness behind the breath, the peace behind the heartbeat. It is the infinite announcing itself in the silence. As you feel this presence, even if it is only a faint sense of peace, let it be enough. Do not try to deepen it, for the attempt to deepen it is the interference of the personal self. Simply behold it. Let it reveal itself. Let it unfold at its own pace, in its own way. Truth does not need your assistance. It needs only your receptivity. In this quiet resting, something begins to shift. The appearance loses its urgency. The fear loses its force. The problem drops away from the center of consciousness. It is not solved. It simply no longer occupies the place it once held. Why? Because we are turning away from the world of effects and standing in the awareness of the one cause. Now, acknowledge once again there is only one power. Let the words be like a gentle wave washing through the mind, clearing away the sense of duality. One power, one presence, one life. The outer world fades from consciousness, and you begin to feel the truth that nothing can enter your experience except that which flows from this one. As we sit in this recognition, the personal self becomes very quiet. The sense of I as a separate being begins to dissolve. There is a soft awareness that the life which animates us is not personal. It is divine. The breath that breathes us is not ours. It is the activity of God. And in this recognition, we discover the meaning of resting in the one power. Everything is already complete. Remain here inwardly. Let the presence speak in its own wordless way. There is nothing to ask for, nothing to seek, nothing to change, nothing to fulfill. The fullness of God is the fullness of your own being. And in this realization, even temporarily glimpsed, harmony begins to appear in the outer scene, not because we have worked for it, but because we have stopped believing there is another power acting. This, then, is our contemplative practice. Silent recognition, quiet acknowledgement, steady resting in the certainty that God is all. Through this practice, the sense of fear diminishes, the sense of separation dissolves, and we begin to live not by might nor by power, but by spirit. As we bring our time together to a close, let us rest once more in the simplicity of what has been revealed. The entire spiritual path, with all its seeming complexity, comes down to this single recognition. There is only one power, not a power that must be summoned, not a power that must be earned, not a power that comes and goes, but a power that is the very essence of our being, present in every breath, every moment, every circumstance. You have not been asked today to change the world, nor to battle its conditions, nor to repair its appearance. You have been invited only to see through the appearance, to behold that the world of form has no authority apart from the belief we give it. And as that belief is withdrawn, the hypnotism breaks, the fear dissolves, and the harmony that has always been present begins to show forth. Nothing external has been altered in this hour. The outer world has not been corrected or improved. What has happened is entirely within a shift in consciousness, a quiet release of the age-old belief in two powers. And in that release, you have touched the truth of being. You have glimpsed that the one presence is the substance of all that is, and that nothing exists beside it. As you leave this moment of contemplation, carry with you not a set of teachings, not a list of principles, but a single awareness. God is the only power operating in your life. Let this recognition accompany you in the small events of daily living, in the moments of stillness, and even in the moments of disturbance. Do not attempt to force it. Do not try to hold it with the mind. Simply allow it to be present whenever it rises naturally to the surface of your consciousness. Know that you do not walk through the world alone. You walk with the one that is your very self. And as you abide in this truth, in quietness, in confidence, in inward listening, you will discover that life is governed by grace. Problems lose their reality. Discord loses its urgency. Fear loses its foundation. You begin to experience the world not as a battleground of opposing forces, but as the unfolding of a single divine activity. And so, let us rest now in the recognition that you have never had two powers. There has never been a second presence, never been a second cause, never been a second law. You have lived in the truth all along, though at times unaware of it. Today you have remembered, and in that remembrance lies your freedom. May the one presence go before you as light. May it exist within you as peace. May it surround you as love, and may it reveal itself, moment by moment, as the only reality of your being. Go in quietness, go in confidence, go in the assurance that God is all.